Sekiro Shadows Die Twice came out a couple of weeks ago. We did a video on it. You've probably seen it. If you haven't, go and watch it. If you don't want spoilers, take this video off. It's me, the Divine Heir, Jake Lukowski, and with me, Sword Saint Liam McKelvey. It's not Mike this time, because Mike hasn't finished it, and we don't want to sort of corrupt him with our knowledge.
Yeah. We want to talk about it, but
Yeah.
without spoiling it.
Yeah, for him.
Well, for Mike.
And for anybody. So if you don't want Sekiro to be spoiled, hey mate, we'll see you around. But if you're ready to get down to it, Sekiro Unchained, this is the video. Me and Liam have both finished the game.
We have.
We both got the same ending, didn't we, I think?
Immortal Severance?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, full spoilers then. That's when you just kind of play the game regularly. You stay true to your boy Kuro. You don't fucking betray him with your father.
The great Shinobi Owl.
Yeah, how great is that Shinobi?
What a good dad he is when he cuts your face at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, what
a lovely dad.
Yeah, that's just the first time he meets you as well. He cuts a boy's face, yeah, bullies him all the way through his childhood, and then at the end, he tries to fuck another kid over.
Yeah.
And you stand true to him and say, no, mate. And that is how you get Immortal Severance ending. You then just play the game as usual.
That'll be the ending most people get.
Yeah.
First time round, anyway.
Exactly. It's got kind of there's the other ending you can get if you go down that path of staying true to the Divine Heir and not Owl is the special ending that you have to do a bunch of stuff. Think of it kind of like the Bloodborne placenta ending, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like you need a lot
Similar,
of special
like,
things.
sort of special side quest thing you have to go through.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's where we are anyway. I'm halfway through New Game Plus. I'm at Owl on New Game Plus now. So I'm going to stay true to Kuro again. I'm going to get that special ending, and then I'll do the other two. So, Liam, we've both done it. It took us around, like, between 25 and 30 hours is our kind of...
Yeah, my save file was 33 hours, 33 minutes. But that was with a little bit of New Game Plus as well.
Mine currently is 27, and I'm at Owl on playthrough 2. I reckon it took me about 24 hours. I was 19 hours until the last boss. It took me genuinely about 2 hours to kill Ishin.
Oh yeah, it was a good 3 or 4 hours was spent on the final boss for me.
Unreal skill check, that is. So let's talk through it. What highlights do you have? First of all, we've played Dark Souls 1, 2, 3 and Bloodborne. You even did Demon Souls.
Yeah.
How did this compare to that story-wise, and what are the bosses like? Any highlights?
I'd probably say I prefer the story. Actually, no, I don't prefer it, but I like how it's a bit more straightforward in Sekiro. Whereas Dark Souls is all about being mysterious, lots of background lore. You've got to, like, take things into your own interpretation. Whereas Sekiro's pretty much straightforward storytelling for the most part.
Yeah.
And I like how there's a smaller cast of characters in Sekiro, but they are more defined. Like, everyone's got a backstory, they talk to you. They're not, like, just laughing at you, telling you about the old ways and stuff like that. They'll actually, like, have a nice chat about you, which I liked. I appreciated the NPCs in this game having, like, being a bit more fleshed out.
Yeah, and now, obviously, you know, people who've played Dark Souls could argue that the people laughing at you do have a backstory, but yeah, you often find that through reading lore or whatever, but this is, like you're saying, the conversations you have directly with all these characters is, like, where you learn about them, and you give them booze, and you can unlock dialogue options. If you've got unrefined sake in your inventory and you've not used it, give it to the sculptor and see what he says, you know. I am noticing things story-wise and lore-wise that I didn't the first time round with New Game Plus already, which shows me that there is more to it than just this surface level story, which is something I guess everyone is praising Dark Souls for, in it is that everything's under the surface. So this has got it does operate on those two levels. Like, you've got that very direct story, you play the wolf and you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing, but also on top of that, there are questions that you wonder, like who's the demon of hate, and you know, why is the sculptor that way, and whatever. And you know, play through the second time, like, there's bits of when you look at the incense burner and you go, oh, wait a minute, he smelt that sakura flower before, and you're wondering it could have been one thing or another. The story's got a lot of depth to it, and I can't wait for all the wave of Australians with calm voices like Varty Vidya and the others to do stuff on it. Sunlight Blade isn't from Australia, but if you're listening, mate, come on, sort yourself out, do some videos. So there's loads of bosses. All these From games revolve around the challenge of these bosses. Yeah. What's your favourite?
Oh, I don't know, actually.
It changes for me like every hour.
Yeah, there's so many good ones. Like, I kind of want to say, as a pure challenge, Demon of Hate was, like, the most satisfying.
Yeah.
When I finally beat him after, like, 4 or 5 hours of constantly trying, it must have been a good 4 hours for me as well. When I finally beat him, it was nothing more satisfying in the world at that moment.
Yeah.
When I beat him, and it was so fantastic. And, like, because you learn it when he dies, he says, like, a few words to you. Quite a big impact on story-wise, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is like, oh, that's so cool.
Very clever.
So, from a pure challenge point of view, probably Demon of Hate. But I don't actually know who my favourite boss is, to be honest.
It is complicated because Demon Hate's so good. But in terms of Sekiro, like, you said this to me ages ago, and it makes so much sense, is that, like, it's like the most Bloodborne you can get, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like
big arena, grand opera-type music in the background.
Giant beast.
Yeah, screaming at you, throwing fire at you. It's a visual spectacle. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it does feel like a boss that, like, you need to dodge more with rather than parry, which is the obvious differentiating factor here. I think that Sekiro's boss fights revolve so much around parrying and deflection. Like, it makes the boss fights for me so satisfying. Like, what I love about it is that apart from the perilous attacks, you can deflect pretty much everything. Pretty much. And I'm absolutely burning through it on New Game Plus. I beat Lady Butterfly like 2 attempts. I beat, what's his name? Like, I don't know what his name is, but he starts every fight with, "My name is," and then the guy on a horse. He says his name, and ironically I forgot what his name is.
I just call him Horse General.
Yeah, exactly, Horse Boy. Yeah, so him slashed him. Genichiro, so he's the real skill check, I think.
Yeah.
The third boss in, he's kind of like the blood-starved beast equivalent in Bloodborne.
He's the make or break point.
Yeah, 3 health bars. Come on, you bastards. So I beat this guy second try this time round. No issues at all because you learn a moveset and it feels so fair. Like, that's the thing about this game. There's some hitbox issues.
Oh yeah, it's like sometimes it feels like you feel like you definitely dodged that perilous attack, like with the chained ogre, especially when he does his like dive grab at you. There's a few times where you think, oh yeah, I'm definitely out of range, but then nope, he grabs you and slams you into the floor anyway.
Yeah. I've noticed this.
Which is a bit tricky, I guess.
Yeah, it does feel weird. I wonder if it's because they're trying to like compensate for the flipping fact that you've got unlimited stamina and you can spin around. So
you
like,
can just run away.
Yeah, I do notice that like enemies have some sort of like magnetic pull towards you, but I feel like that has only ever been a problem during dodging, and I really think that the game is trying to get you out of that. I played Dark Souls as a strength character, and I learned to become friends with the block and the parry, right? Which is weird because the game is about playing a shinobi, which you'd think playing a dex character in Souls would give you a bit more of an advantage. But in fact, it's not. In fact, it's probably more painful for dex players because
I was a dex player in Dark Souls and I definitely had to unlearn the dodging in Sekiro.
Exactly, and I don't know what happens with these iframes. I don't know if it's got them in or not, but
if it has got them, there's like 2 of them at most.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like there's not many.
It's very, very tricky. So I really enjoy the boss fights. So
yeah,
I don't think I've mentioned this on the channel before, but I'm a big fan of boxing in real life. And I was watching some boxing last night in the UK. There was a big fight night in Liverpool. And I was watching it. I was thinking, do you know what? Yeah, what I like about Sekiro's boss fights is it's very similar. You can either whittle down the health or you can whittle down the stamina. You don't need to be perfect in Sekiro. All you need to do is keep going at the posture until you can do a death blow. Very much like boxing, isn't it? Apart from the death bit. All you need to do is stagger your opponent once, get 1 critical punch in, and boom, they're down. Yeah. And there's 2 ways of fighting that way, and it's very clever. Be on the attack a lot. If you're defensive the whole time, their posture bar's never going to fill.
And you'll never get anywhere, yeah.
Exactly, and I think that I'm quite a greedy player when it comes to these games. So when I found the boss fights to be like more a kind of task in keeping the pressure on, keeping these enemies on the boil, I think that's why it clicked for me so much, because I've seen some people in the comments in the last video say like, oh Jake, how have you got so far so quick? Like, they thought they must have gone for a second, didn't it? But I think it's down to that, like, just unrelentless L1 bashing. And I've really liked it. So the game starts off pretty straightforward, anime-ish sort of betrayal story.
Oh yeah.
But then it takes a weird turn, kind of predictable for a From Software game.
It does have that Bloodborne-ish sort of like mid-game twist.
Yeah. What did you reckon of that? Like, comparatively, I guess Bloodborne is the best example of it. Dark Souls has like some big twisty bits, like going to Analondo, I guess counts, but and when you'd learn to fast travel in Dark Souls. But what did you reckon of this twist into a bit more of a mythological point of view?
I liked it because it introduced like new enemy variety, which up until that point of the game you were mostly fighting just, you sort of like random samurai, the occasional like giant and stuff, whereas when the big twist happens you start getting like ghosts and mythological creatures and stuff like, which really I appreciated because it kept things fresh in the long run.
It did. It really did. There's like these enemies, mist nobles, and they are literally like a Bloodborne like character.
They look a bit like dragonish. A little tiny bit.
Yeah, they do. And then you can kind of see where that goes if you carry on playing. But for me, the big his thing was like, yeah, they look like I can't remember what they're called in Bloodborne. It's like those scholar-looking like things, and it's funny how the scholars are kind of spineless in Bloodborne, and the nobles in this are kind of like these spineless cretins that make you weak, and that's kind of attack.
Enfeeble you.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and there's this really great place in the game when you finally get past that the sort of first half when you go into Fountainhead Palace,
the Divine Realm,
which
is amazing to look at.
Exactly, it's
so good.
It's one of my favourite places in any of
the cherry blossom trees everywhere, and
fantastic.
The fountains and the rivers.
Yeah, and the fact that there's a big lake and you can go swim underwater. That's a twist in itself, isn't it? You learn this breathing technique halfway through the game and you can go underwater. What did that feel like? It's like some Dire Doc shit. That
was cool. I liked it, especially where I think Mike's mentioned it before, where he was surprised he can go in the water in this game.
Yeah.
Whereas in like Dark Souls, it was like, well, you're dead because you went in the water, pretty much.
Exactly.
Being able to swim, it sounds like a bit cliche, but it did literally add another dimension to the game.
It really does, especially when you go back later when you can go underground.
Yeah.
Not underground, underwater. You can go underground in the game as well.
You find treasure and different enemies and all sorts.
There's like boss fights under the water, headlesses were there. So if you played the game, but you might not have checked out some of the earlier places and gone again with the breathing technique, you should do it. I've got to say, the two bosses that stick out to me that I really enjoyed was I really, really liked the headless ape.
He was a bit tough for me the first time, but when he clicked, in hindsight, it was quite a fun fight.
Yeah, that's it. So I've just beat him again, because he's like you see him again basically.
Yeah, and he's got a friend with him.
He's got a friend with him. Yeah,
so 2 apes.
And that fight clicked so much for me that I was parrying every attack almost, apart from that scream thing, and that's really, really memorable. And I really enjoyed. I did enjoy the last fight when I beat them. At the time, though, horrible. Owl is a nice fight, I think. I don't really like the second half of it when he uses loads of
He starts using all his shinobi tools.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I mentioned in the last video, I don't really use the prosthetics that much. I use a Sabamaru, that poison blade.
Yeah,
that's really good for against bosses, because even if they're blocking, you can still do a poison build up, and then that'll get their health down enough that you can do posture damage. But yeah, I felt like I burnt through the game quite quickly, and I looked at what I've kind of missed out on, and it really isn't that much. It's I missed about 4 mini bosses.
Yeah.
And by missed, I mean I saw them but ran away from them. So that was like the couple of the headlesses, that Lady Ocean of the Water, and then right near the end of the game, you go back to the Ashina Reservoir, and there's a mini boss there. I can't remember what his name is.
Oh, is he like the Red Guard or something?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think I beat him just because I was like 1 prayer bead short of an upgrade.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll fight this guy. Might as well upgrade my health.
Yeah, and that I think is one of the best bits of the game, is this sort of thing where From get you where they want you, because you can't overlevel. The max you can get is like the amount of prayer beads you can find, but the prayer beads are kind of locked behind progression in the story, because progression in the story leads to like time of day changing, and when the time of day changes, more mini bosses appear, and that is where you get your prayer beads, right?
Yeah.
So you can't really overlevel. You can get to like the max level that you can be at that point, but it's normally like maybe 1 prayer bead over what the average player might have, because you might have got 4 mini. Like I remember before Genshiro, there's maybe an optional 4 prayer beads sort of thing. I can't remember what they're called. When you get like is it like a prayer charm? I don't know what is it.
I think it's like necklace or something.
Yeah, well, one of them. Yeah, I think you can get 1 more if you're tricky and you get the headless and all.
Yeah.
Overall, I really rate this combat. Like,
oh yeah, me too.
I think that when it comes down to it, like, this is probably the best sword combat I've seen. How does it compare to something like Devil May Cry? Because I didn't really play that, but I know that that's well known for its combat. It came out just weeks ago. What's it like compared to that? Speed wise, does it compare? Is there a clear sort of winner there?
Speed wise, they're probably the same. Maybe a slight edge towards Sekiro, because Devil May Cry you can sort of like compensate with combos and stuff like that. Whereas Sekiro is more about, like deflecting and parrying and getting your hits in that way. Yeah. Whereas Devil May Cry is more about stringing together combo chains. And the enemies in Devil May Cry don't really respond to you in the way the enemies do in Sekiro. So like you can stun lock enemies quite often in Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
And you can pretty much like avoid or dodge every attack, whereas Sekiro has the perilous attacks and all that. So I'd probably say Sekiro's got faster combat, whereas Devil May Cry is probably more, I do say it's more accessible, but probably harder to master than Sekiro. Because I feel like with Sekiro, you have to master the combat at a certain point to even progress through the game.
Yeah.
Whereas Devil May Cry, you can get through being sort of an average player.
Yeah, and that's obviously a conversation that happens online every time From Software Do Something is there's a conversation about the accessibility of Sekiro. People hearing rave reviews about it, but they just can't play it. There should be an easy mode. Funnily enough, you are playing on easy mode when you start the game, because if you ring the demon bell halfway through the game, then you're in hard mode. So you are playing on the easy mode, I guess. This is the toughest. I think because you can't summon NPCs, you can't summon friends.
Yeah, you can't overlevel if you get stuck.
You can't overlevel. The only way of playing this game all the way through the end is to get fucking really good.
Yeah.
Not even get good, man.
When they say get good, it's serious this time.
Yeah, it's very, very, very challenging. But what lies beyond the challenge when you've completed it is an immense satisfaction. And it's a game that I jumped back into straight away after being stuck on the final boss for ages, stressing out my whole family by playing in the living room, inches away from a swear word at any time. Finally beating that boss, so satisfying. I jumped straight back in, and I'm nearly at end of number 2. I love this game to death. The comment section below is going to be filled with spoilers. So please knock yourself out. Talk about the game all you want. If you want to ask us anything, because 17 minutes isn't really enough time to talk about everything. So please, if you want to ask us anything or what we thought of this or that, feel free to do so, and we'll be in there. Mike will be nowhere to be seen. It'll be a safe haven for you little spoilery bastards, just like us. Liam, I loved it. What about you?
I too really enjoyed it. Probably not quite as much as you did. I can't see myself playing through it again. Not because I don't like it, purely just because there's so many other games I feel like I want to get through.
Totally fair.
That I'd rather give some time to some other games just to be fair to them.
And it's not just your time, man. It's your soul. You have to pay attention, and it'll really punish you if you don't. So that's a brief look at what we think about Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, as spoilerish as we can, without talking about the full 30-hour game. Like I say, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. Do you know what? There's probably some people listening who want to hear a spoiler chat because they played the game, thought this is not for me, I'm getting rid of it. And if that is the case, let us know where about you quit or where about you got sick of it. If you don't care, if you're not playing the game and don't care, let us know why you don't care. I'd love to hear from you. I'm sure Liam would too.
Yep.
Not Mike, don't forget about him. We'll see you in the next video. Cheers very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.